So, start. Good morning, guys. Before we start with our discussion, think. I just want you to think and have a quick overview of our lesson and discussion today. So, just think of yourself being in a group of animal in a jungle. By means of being in the jungle, you are living together with the other animal. So, to give you background about our topic, let's just assume that you are an animal in a jungle. Let's just say you are a monkey. So ano yung nagagawa mo or ano yung role mo as a monkey to live a life? At some point, monkey in the jungle is the favorite prey of all predator in the jungle. So to have a better understanding about our topic, guys, what comes in your mind when you hear the word jungle? So basically, jungle is a forest, di ba, with a lot of animals, plants, and different life forms greatly depend on it. Yeah, parang general zoology na rin yung topic natin. So on the other hand, given that life forms are functioning in this certain place, no one is governing anyone. So wala pong, bali, yung nangyayari guys sa isang jungle is maging totally free siya from rules since walang nagga-govern in from the animals in that given place. They have the right to do anything. You can be outrageous, you can hunt anything as long as you can. Ganun po ang nangyayari sa jungle if we think about the concept of being in a jungle. So, moreover, to be in a jungle guys, the fittest rule. Ibig sabihin, sino ba sa tingin yung king of jungle? So, di ba, let's just say lion, siya yung king of jungle. Since lion has the capability to hunt other predator, we could say that he's also capable of manipulating the whole race of animals. So if we relate these guys in our real life, that is what exactly happened too. Nagigets nyo ba? Furthermore, to have a general thought of our discussion today, familiar ba kayo guys sa law of jungle? So basically, yung rule of jungle is used to describe a situation in which people do whatever they want to or whatever is necessary to survive or succeed. In short, yun ang nangyayari sa isang bansa kung walang nakapaloob na batas or yung sinasabi nating written constitution. So may nagets ba sa introduction guys? Respond na lang. So that is an overview about our topic today, which is the Philippine Constitution. So what is Constitution? A set of fundamental principles or established precedents according to which a state or organization is governed. Thus, the word itself means to be part of a whole. With a particular reference to the Constitution of the Philippines, it may be defined as the written instrument by which the fundamental powers of the government are established, limited, and defined, by which these powers are distributed among the branches of government. On the other hand, Constitution is a set of laws and rules that sets up machinery of the government of a state and which defines and determines the relationship between the different institutions and components of the government. The executive, the legislature, the judiciary, and the central and the local government. So moving forward, what is constitution by nature? Constitution serve as a supreme or fundamental law in a nation. Second, Constitution establishes basic framework and fundamental principles of the government. Third is designed to protect the rights of the people. So that is the nature of Constitution. Next is what are the characteristics of a good Constitution? First is brief. Brief in by means that it's not too detailed but it's substantial enough. Next is broad. Covers the whole state and rights of citizens as well as many future contingencies. Third is definite. Definition and interpretations are definite.
So let's move on the evolution of Philippine Constitution. So the first Philippine Constitution is the 1897 Constitution of Biak Nabato. So the Constitution of Biak Nabato was the provisionary constitution of the Philippine Republic during the Philippine Revolution. On the other hand, this constitution was the first handheld constitution of the Philippines. Provisionary Constitution of the Philippines Republic Act during the Philippine Revolution. This constitution is borrowed from the Cuba and written by Isabelo Artacho. The organs of the government under this constitution are A. Supreme Council headed by the President and 4 department secretaries of Interior, Foreign Affairs, Treasury, and War. B is the Consejo Supremo de Gracia y Justicia, or the Supreme Council of Grace and Justice. It was given the authority to make decisions and affirm or disprove sentences rendered by courts. Letter C is the Asamblea de Representantes, or the Assembly of Representatives, was to be conveyed after the revolution to create a new constitution. During that time, the Katipunan's revolution led the Tejeros Convention, where at San Francisco de Malabon, Cavite, on March 22, 1897, the first president and presidential election in the Philippines history were held, although only Katipuneros or the members of the Katipunan were able to take part and not the general population. Yes. So moving forward is the 1899 Malolos Constitution. Following that year, established the Malolos Constitution, or known as the Constitution Politica de Malolos. This titled as the Political Constitution of 1899, patterned after the Spanish Constitution, and was written in Spanish. This contained 39 articles divided into 14 titles, with 8 articles of transitionary provision and final additional article. The form of government under this constitution is to be popular, representative, alternative, and responsible, and shall exercise 3 distinct powers, which is the legislative, the executive, and the judicial. The legislative power was vested in unicameral body called the Assembly of Representatives, while the executive power was conferred in the President and elected by a constituent Assembly of the Assembly of Representatives. And most of all, there was no vice president during the Malolos Constitution. This constitution was sanctioned by President Emilio Aguinaldo on January 21st and promulgated on January 22nd, the year of 1899. This constitution states that the people have exclusive sovereignty. By means of it, people are free from external control. And during this constitution, elected presidents only have 4-year term. And that is the Malolos Constitution. Moving forward is the 1935 Constitution, or the Commonwealth Constitution. This constitution was written in 1934, approved and adopted by the Commonwealth of the Philippines on 1935 to 1946, and later used by the Third Republic of the Philippines. This constitution was crafted to meet the approval of the United States to live up to its promise to grant independence to the Philippines. The original 1935 Constitution provides inter-alliance for unicameral legislature and a single 6-year term for the President, and later amended in 1940 to have a bicameral Congress composed of a Senate and a House of Representatives, as well as the creation of an independent commission on elections. This constitution created the Commonwealth of the Philippines, an administrative body that governed the country from 1935 to 1946. It is a transitional administration to prepare the country towards its full achievement of independence, and it originally provided for unicameral National Assembly with the President and the Vice Presidents. Next is the 1973 Constitution, or the authoritarianism. So this constitution was enforced during the martial law era. This was supposed to introduce a parliamentary style of government. The president was to be elected as a symbolic and ceremonial head of the state. Executive power was relegated to the prime minister. To have an in-depth discussion of this constitutional authoritarianism, on the 24th on August 1970, Congress enacted Republic Act number 6132, otherwise known as the Constitutional Convention Act, for the purpose of convening a constitutional convention. While in the process of drafting new constitution, President Ferdinand E. Marcos declared the what's so-called martial law later that month on September 21st of 1972. The 1973 Constitution was promulgated after the declaration of martial law by Marcos, although it was supposed to introduce a parliamentary-style government in what's so-called parliamentary style, legislative power will be vested in a unicameral nationality assembly in which members will be elected for 6 years term with unlimited number of terms, meaning a head of state can be elected consistently or re-elected as long as the nation is in favor of it. Yeah. Or let's just take the administration of President Duterte instead as example. Since he has a great advocacy these days in nation building, and majority of the population is in favor with it, especially the war on drugs. His with his political perspective, there's no reason for the people to dislike him, isn't it? And probably he could run again for presidency to continue what he started. So that's the idea of this constitution. Additionally, during this constitution, an elected president ceased to be member of National Assembly, in which during his term, the president is not allowed to be a member of a political party or hold any other offices. So moving forward is the 1986 or the Freedom Constitution. So wait. Can we talk about the amendment during this constitution of the constitutional authoritarianism? Although it has many dislike it, some good governance was also amended during this constitution, which is the amendment during this constitution where the interim batasang pambansa or the IBP, or substituting for the interim National Assembly. And the president would also become the prime minister, and he would continue to exercise legislative powers until such time as martial law was lifted. So these are some of the amendments during the 1973 Constitution. So later that years later, established the new constitution, which is the Freedom Constitution. Maybe due to a lot of disadvantage they saw from the existing constitution, they decided to crafted a new constitution, which is the Freedom Constitution, which is a transitional constitution enforced to last for a while a constitution commission drafted a permanent one. This maintained many provisions of the old one. So after a year of that, this constitution was established, or the current constitution, which is used until now, which is the 1987 constitution, or the Freedom Constitution, let's just say. This established the Philippines as a democratic republican state. The executive branch is directly by the president and his cabinet, whom he appoints. The legislative power resides in the Congress, divided into two houses, the Senate and the House of Representatives. While the Philippine court system is vested with the power of the judiciary and is composed of Supreme Court and lower court as created by law. On February 11, the 1987 Constitution was proclaimed, ratified, and took effect, where sovereignty resides in the people and all government authority emanates from them. And Corazon Aquino issued Proclamation Number 3, declaring a national policy to implement the reform mandated by the people, protecting their basic rights, adopting a provisional constitution, and providing for an orderly translation to a government under a new constitution, in which this so this constitution also provided for three major methods by which it can be amended, all requiring ratification by a majority vote in a national referendum, in which this method will serve as an instrument to amend or change the current constitution. So first is the Constitutional Assembly proposes amendment to the Constitution, where the Congress votes and decides what to amend as a single body. So Constitutional Assembly is a term describing one of the three methods by which amendment to the 1987 Constitution of the Philippines may be proposed. So moving forward is the Constitutional Convention. So the 1987 can also be amended through this Constitutional Convention, which calls for a vote of two-thirds of all the members of the Congress. Next is the People Initiative, or let's just say the people may propose amendments in Constitution upon petition of at least 12 of the total number of registered voters. So let's just say that the northern region of Luzon wants to call for a constitutional change. It is possible to happen because the population of North Luzon is estimated to fill the 12% of that total voters in the Philippines. So 1987 can also be amended through this people initiative. So other related discussion not included to our lesson is the changing of the constitution, or the process that embodies these three methods. Which is the Constitutional Assembly, the Constitutional Convention, and the People's Initiative, or what known as changing of constitution, other known as the constitutional reform in the Philippines. So the constitutional reform in the Philippines of what's so called the charter change, or CHATCHA. This refers to the political and legal process needed to amend the current constitution of the Philippines. Under the common interpretation of the constitution, amendments can be proposed by one of the three methods which was mentioned. So that is the constitutional reform in the Philippines. President Rodrigo Duterte supported federalism in 2016, during that presidential elections. This form of government is composed of central governing authority and constituent political units sharing sovereignty. Under this, regions may custom-fit solution to problem brought about their distinct geographic, cultural, social, and economic context. However, it may create competition among regions as it can be challenged in achieving peace in the country. Our current governmental system is unitary system where administrative powers and resources are concentrated in the national government. So federalism, in short, is proposed type of government wherein sovereignty is constitutionally divided between national government and subdivision government, such as states or provinces. Federalism divides the country into several autonomous states with a national government. So let's just say that what the example of this is kung magkakaroon ng federalism dito sa Philippines, bale divided lahat ng provinces or regions in the Philippines. So, di ba we have more than 17 regions in the Philippines. So each region will going to have a personal form of government in which they need to sustain the people. Parang ganun. Parang kanya-kanya na yung form of government. Hindi na tayo aasa sa national government. Parang ganun, kanya-kanya na po pag federalism. If this will going to happen. So how does federalism works? The autonomous states are even further divided into local government units. They will have the main responsibility over developing their local industries, public health and safety, education, transportation, and culture. So these states have more power over their finances, policies, development, and plans and laws. So this ends our first topic regarding the Constitution or the Philippine Constitution. So moving forward to our next topic is we're going to cover the agrarian reform. So what is agrarian reform? Agrarian reform is a rectification of a whole system of agriculture. It refers to the redistribution of lands regardless of crops of fruits produced to the farmers and regular farm workers. They are landless irrespective of tenural arrangement and economic status of the beneficiaries. Distinguished from the land reform, land reform is a physical redistribution of land, such as the programs under the Presidential Decree Number 27 or the Agrarian Reform, meaning the distribution of lands, including the totality of factors and support services designed to lift the economic status of the beneficiaries. Thus, agrarian reform is broader than land reform. So, the agrarian reform in the Philippines has evolved through time. So, I think we will not going to discuss this because it has a broader topic. So, the history of evolution of the Philippine came out in 5 stages or evolution. Let's just say evolution or the stages of the land reform in the Philippines, which is the first is the land ownership in the Philippines under the Spain, and next is the land ownership in the Philippines under the Americans, the post-war intervention toward agrarian reform, the agrarian reform efforts under the Marcos administration, and the post or the 1986 agrarian reform. So we're not going to discuss this as is has a broad topic and I think hindi siya related naman sa topic natin. Pero you can browse for them naman to know the definition and terms of this evolution of agrarian laws. So let's just move to the Comprehensive Agrarian Reform Law or the Republic Act 6657. So the scope of this Republic Act is that all public and private agricultural lands, including other lands of the Republic domain, substitute for agriculture. So the definition of this Republic Act is the agricultural land. Agricultural land is a land devoted to agricultural activity and not classified as mineral, forest, residential, commercial, or industrial land. Next is the agricultural activity. Cultivation of soil, planting of crops, growing of fruit trees, raising of fish, including the harvesting of such farm products and other farm activities and practices performed by a farmer in conjunction with such farming operations done by persons wherever natural or judicial. So what are the exclusion of this agrarian reform? So some of the exclusion included are parks, wildlife, forest reserve, reforestation, fish sanctuaries and breeding grounds, watersheds and mangroves and private lands. So these are the exclusion that is stated under the Reform Law of Agrarian Reform Law. Yeah. So I think that ends our topic on the Philippine Constitution and the agrarian reform. Thank you for listening, guys, and I hope you learn something about our report. Thank you and bye.